What is going on, everybody? Welcome to today's News Tonight, episode 51. It is Friday. I am so glad that we've made it through yet another week. I'm happy to be here live with you, the GV gang. And of course, as always, as with every episode, I'm joined by my best friends and co-founders in Good Vibes Gaming, Ash Paulson and Derek Bittner. And if you haven't noticed, we've got the Enter the Gungeon beanie man himself, your game dad, John Phipps of official SDGC, or the Super Deluxe Games Cast, as it's been known to be called. How you doing today, man?
Are you talking about me?
No.
Okay, cool. No. Excellent. I just wanted to make sure. Because I do not like that guy you're talking about. He sucks.
No, he sounds like a jerk. I keep telling you, Steve, don't invite that guy on.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all, man. My wife would probably agree with you. No, Steve, this is great, dude. I've been a big fan of GVG ever since you guys kind of struck off and started doing your own thing. I mean, this is great. This is just a huge honor for me because, of course, I have followed Derek and Ash for some time. And Steve, you're just a buddy of mine, and I'm really sad that I don't get to hug you at PAX in March. That's really
I know. I was so thrilled. The last major show I went to, I just ran into you in the hall.
Yeah,
like I was just walking to another appointment, and I happened to pass you in the hallway, and we managed to at least have a few minutes to chat. But it has been far too long since I've seen you, my friend, and I'm glad that I'm at least able to have you on the show, because like I was saying before we started recording, this is how I interact with people now. This is my entire social circle.
I think this is how we all interact with people now. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to the after times whenever those times do arrive. I mean, at least people are starting to get vaccinated now, so maybe
the after party for all this is going to be sick.
It really is.
Ultimate after
well, no, the after party for this is going to be healthy. Let's.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, the party was
a really
sick.
good point, actually. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, it's nice to see those charts and how they're trending downward now. Like we're back to where they said, like it can't get worse than this. Well, at least we're there again.
Right. You never want to say it can never get worse, ever.
Yeah.
No.
I want to say thank you to Drew A. and Scuff196 for saying my hair looks good without Sans beanie. They're saying my hair's looking slick, so thank you to you both for that compliment. That's very nice of you. That makes me want to get a Sans beanie, though, so I can, play off that. And I'm sure I could get a Sans beanie pretty easily.
I'm sure there's one. I mean...
it has to be one.
If there isn't an official
I've been
one,
thinking,
there's one on Etsy somewhere.
Exactly. I've been thinking I need to, invest in a larger collection of gaming beanies, since that's kind of what I've unofficially become known for. So I might be...
You need your beanies. I need my plushes.
Right. Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we got a lot of news to cover. But before we do, we've got a sponsor. As always with Fridays, this episode is sponsored by Straight Lace and The Soul Device. The Soul Device is a puzzle platformer where the player can create temporary platforms by shooting projectiles onto walls at the cost of HP to explore a Metroidvania-style environment. It's available now on Steam, and if you choose to pick it up, the developer Straight Lace would appreciate any feedback you have, as he's currently developing the sequel and hoping to make it as fun and enjoyable as it can be. And as a helpful reminder to all of our friends here in the audience, if y'all suggest something, Straight Lace has a proven ability to put these things in. We suggested petting the dog, and then the next episode it was there. So please do him a favor. Please check it out. He's kind enough to support the channel, and we would appreciate it if you could support him and his game, The Soul Device, as well. With that, let's get on to the news. This first
Actually,
story...
really quick.
Oh,
Steve,
please,
sorry, really quick. I just want to give a quick shout out to Slime Boss in the chat, who has to go write a paper, but I don't recognize your name, so I just wanted to say thank you for joining us for our live audience, even for a few minutes, and we hope to see you back for a future episode. But good luck on your paper, and sorry to interrupt, Steve. I just wanted to get that in there
that's
before they
fine.
left.
Slime Boss is a semi-frequent presence in the chat. I've noticed that name a few times before.
Okay, cool.
But I'm still glad they were able to hang out for a few minutes. You might have heard just now the beginning of a familiar tune. Let's get that first news story on screen. And I'll be honest, this one blew my goddamn mind.
Right?
Me too!
So,
this is the coolest thing.
What you're watching right now is the opening of Super Mario 64, which is ancient. So, but what is crazy is that it went this long without anybody figuring out that the opening music you hear in Super Mario 64 is the Donkey Kong theme. Just
wait,
slow
what?
down.
I am not aware of this. Okay,
Oh, you're
I
not?
must have missed this one.
Oh, it's crazy. They slowed it down and did some other mixing with it, and it's basically in the same way. The what is it, 25-meter from Donkey Kong, or the typical
Yeah, so
Donkey Kong
it's
song
the
from
first
arcade.
stage from the original Donkey Kong, the bump, 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 and there's those 4 notes play in that sequence and is part of Super Mario 64's opening theme, and it's been hiding there all along, and it's. This left me legit shook, you guys.
This has the same energy. This is like the video game version of, you know what happens if you play Dark Side of the Moon backwards on record? You get a weird message. Like this is the exact same. Wow, that is nuts.
Yeah.
Who found this?
Hojiro Chame on Twitter is the one I put it in there. So
yeah, this was actually posted in our GVG newsroom in our Discord, and then I retweeted it, and I was like, this left me shook, and it took off. It got 1,000 likes and hundreds of retweets, and then I just suggested it as a story for today because I love video game music, and this is legitimately something I never knew existed. This connection.
That is wild.
Yeah, this is one of those
Right?
things where I wonder if this was something that was just an open secret, like a lot of people knew about it, and it's just coming to the attention of a wider group of people now. Because I've never had even an inkling about this, and I tend to know a lot about Mario trivia and stuff like that because I only memorize useless things. And I've never even had, I don't know, somebody tell me if this was known before this. I don't think it was.
I didn't know about it.
I had no idea. Never heard this before. Do you have the? Could you play it just I've seen some requests to have you play it in the.
Yeah. If y'all want to hear it, I will shut up for a minute and I will.
Yeah, we'll shut up for a minute so you can hear it for yourself because it's something else.
Yeah, let me pull this up back on screen real quick. All right, and I apologize to my co-hosts here, but it's only going to play through my headphones.
Oh, that's fine.
That's okay. No
That's
worries.
fine.
All right, so let's get this back on screen. And all right, take a listen to this, y'all. It's going to play Mario 64, then it's going to play it again, and then it's going to play DK, just so you know what it is we're listening to. It's about a minute, but here we go.
The wizardry.
That's so cool.
What?
As soon as he started, I'm like, no way.
How did nobody pick up on this until now?
It's amazing, right?
Unreal. Just friggin' unreal.
That's so good.
What can you say?
So there you have it.
Oh my God.
Fully illustrated.
It's the coolest.
That is
thing.
legit, just utterly mind-blowing. It was one of those where
Right?
I saw the video, and I was like, oh, somebody must have remastered the midis from this portion of Super Mario 64 because we had that story a couple weeks ago with something very similar happening with Super Mario World. So I didn't even watch the whole minute and 18 seconds. I was like, oh, that's really cool, and I gave it a like and I moved on. If I had watched the whole thing through, I think I would have had like a moment. It's real. It is incredible. It is actually mind-blowing. So I love that Nintendo does this clever shit with their music, just hiding references to other things. And I just can't believe it took this long to do that. But yeah, Koji Kondo, you're a genius. Always been a genius, always going to be a genius. I assume Koji Kondo did the...
Dude, everything's connected. It's the MCU. It's the Mario Cinematic Universe,
Right.
man. Like everything is all set in the same world.
So
Beautiful.
even I, as like obviously like a huge video game music obsessee, I didn't know about this, and the vast majority of replies I got to my tweet about it also didn't know. There were a couple of people who were like, "You didn't know this? It's obvious." I'm like, "Really? Are you saying you really knew this all along?" Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Either way, though, Steve, this is a slightly more well known, so you might know this, but Super Mario Brothers 2's opening theme, like title screen's theme, is just a ragtime version of the underwater theme from Mario 1.
Yeah,
I don't think I knew that.
Okay, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, that I really like as well. But all right, so yeah, Nintendo continues to be
Just
mind-blowing
cool.
with their music.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, really is. But we also had, I mean, there's a lot of non-Nintendo news. There's also a lot of Nintendo. There's just a lot of news in general. But we got a pair of trailers that I just cannot wait to talk about. One more so than the other. But let me go ahead and throw up what we've got on screen here. I can't show you these trailers.
Nope.
Yeah.
But the Red Band trailer for Mortal Kombat dropped. And holy shit.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I won't say it's
very
perfect, but it has potential.
I'm into it. You know, I think it looks like it has, potential. I'm not going to say this is going to be amazing, but it certainly looks like it could be good. And it doesn't look like it's going to be terrible, in my opinion. So,
Well,
my wife and I both watched it last night. She's a huge Mortal Kombat fan. She's like, no, you know what? I'm into this.
I really like the fact that they are leading into the inherent silliness of Mortal Kombat, you know, with the because I think what the original movie tried to do was, you know, I mean, aside from, you know, casting white actors to play, you know, Chinese gods, but, you know, aside from that, like I feel like they really, that movie tried to take itself both too seriously and not seriously enough at the same time. And I really like the attention to detail, especially in costumes for, like, you know, Sub-Zero and Scorpion and Raiden. And yeah, I'm not the biggest Mortal Kombat fan, but I do think this looks extremely interesting, particularly Sub-Zero using his own blood
that was sick.
Yeah, to basically turn it into an icicle knife. I thought that was a highlight for me. I was like, okay, that's really cool.
Man, I was. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I watched it and I was like, I like how that's one of the big complaints of the original Mortal Kombat was, you know, PG-13. He couldn't really show a whole lot. And one of the things they're definitely going for this time is like, yeah, there's a lot of blood, and it looks like that Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight is going to be brutal. Yeah. Looking forward to that, but it's also two characters that could really go nuts like that, and it looks like it's going to be fun. It looks like it's going to be fun in the same way that maybe Sonic was, where it's maybe not exactly as you would imagine it, but it's close enough. You're like, you know what? I dig this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing,
I
right?
think, yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, go ahead, please. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, you know, don't go into this, you know, temper your expectations. Don't go into this expecting an Oscar winner.
No.
Which I think is the mistake a lot of people make when we're talking about video game movies. Every time a video game movie trailer gets dropped, there are one of two reactions on the internet. There's either this is going to be the greatest video game movie of all time, or this looks terrible. And I think this is going to be somewhere in the middle. I'm not expecting the magnum opus of you know, video game to film translations, but this does look like a good stupid 2 hours worth of you know, ice ninjas, and, you know, like, I'm all about it, man. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think my only concern is I'm not super into the perspective of, like, this everyman or this. I mean, I know he's got, like, the dragon-shaped birthmark that means he's destined to compete in Mortal Kombat.
The new
right?
character.
But Cole, like, this new character that nobody had, like, I don't know. I'd rather see it through the eyes of the main cast, right? But again, I haven't seen the movie yet, so maybe what they're doing works. But yeah, like, the main character being someone we don't really know from the games is, like, the only thing I'm not super into so far.
Plus, it's just a trope, right? Like, I know 4 guys who have dragon-shaped birthmarks, and none of them grew up to be Mortal Kombat champions. So I don't understand what's so special about this guy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
seems like whatever. But you're right, John, though, about how there's always these higher expectations, it seems, for video games, video game movies, especially among video game fans.
Yes.
But I think as long as it can capture that spirit, it can be still fun to watch. And by that metric, one of the better video game movies that captured the original feel of their source material is Dead or Alive. It's stupid as hell.
I never saw it.
But it is.
I wanted to.
But it captures, like, it got the volleyball, it has the cheesecake, it has the insane plot. But you know what? Sure, it works. It's cheesy. Like, you like your bad movies, Ash? You would like Dead or Alive. I guarantee you would like Dead or Alive.
I think I would. Yeah,
any movie
I really
where
want to watch it at some
volleyball and
point.
cheesecake are the primary selling points.
Exactly.
I mean, that's Dead or Alive, so there you go.
Well,
Right.
you know what's interesting about game to film adaptations is that as the gaming industry itself has grown and evolved and matured, so to have the willingness to depict these games in other forms of media as they really are. Like, we all remember back in like the early '90s when Super Mario Brothers, starring John Leguizamo and like that was a thing. And then there was Double Dragon, which was also a thing.
Double Dragon.
Double Dragon.
Man.
And then even a decade later, there was Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which was neither final nor fantasy. And so, but now we are finally.
I mean, it was final. There was no more.
Oh yeah, no, it was almost final for Square Enix or for SquareSoft at that point too.
Right.
But we are now at a point where, I mean, we've got a literal movie about a blue hedgehog collecting rings who's running around in the real world. Like, we are finally. I mean, look at the Mortal Kombat trailer. Like, we are finally starting to depict these games as they are in the actual medium itself, which I think is a really cool step forward for games to movies. That doesn't mean that they're going to be any better. Like, look at Monster Hunter, but at least we're starting to pay more attention and more respect to the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mean,
think-
I'm certainly looking forward to this. This will be something that I'm happy to watch day one on HBO Max. Like,
Same.
I want to watch this as soon as it comes out.
Hard same.
I know my wife wants to as well.
Well, there was, however, another trailer, and I want to get your guys' take on this. Real quick, though, Mortal Kombat, I love that they open with Jax getting his arms ripped off. Like, that sets
Right.
the tone
That's-
for what
yeah.
kind
Again,
of movie this is going to be.
It looks brutal, and as many people mentioned, I don't know if Johnny Cage is in this movie or not. It's a shame if he isn't, because I mean, he is such a fan favorite. But it looks like they're going that kind of funnish route with Kano, who seems to be a good guy in this. It seems.
That was weird. Like,
Yeah, that was weird, right?
I'm sure
Earth's
that'll
forces.
change. He'll
I mean, it's probably going to betray and do all that sort of thing. But
because he doesn't have his little half cybernetic face yet, so he's just got some scars and but. But I want to ask you guys, how long into the movie before we get somebody dropping the word fatality?
Oh man!
Hopefully not long.
probably after the first fight,
Yeah.
like the first real Mortal Kombat fight.
Also, flawless victory.
Flawless
How
victory's
soon
gotta
do we
be
get
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know
I
what?
agree.
You know what? If you really want to impress me, work in friendship or babality in there. If you really want to impress me,
my gosh.
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Oh man!
Agreed. I mean, there's so much they can do. I do wish they had just brought the actor back for Kano from the original Mortal Kombat movie.
He was
because
so good.
Talk about
was
perfect
good.
casting. Literally perfect casting there. He was amazing.
He was good.
As Kano.
Yeah, I was
was
going to
good.
say
I mean-
the word "iconic" is thrown around too much these days, but his
Sure.
performance truly was iconic as Kano.
I mean, he
It
kind
was.
of gave Kano more of his modern personality.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
he
I think-
He was
I
not
mean-
Australian until then.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what made Kano Australian was
Right.
that actor. Yeah, and it fit. It completely fit.
Yeah.
yeah.
I just always think of that. Again, you said iconic gets thrown around too long, but I when I see his face, I always think, "Hello, baby, did you miss me?"
Yeah.
So
Did you
good.
miss
I
mine?
used to say that to people all the
It's so
time.
good. Yeah.
Sonya Blyde.
So yeah. Oh, so good. So good.
All right, so moving from something decidedly M-rated to something a little more PG-13, IGN has also published a trailer for a Nintendo documentary called Playing with Power, the Nintendo story. I'm not clear on if this is made by IGN or if this is who's producing this.
Yeah, I'm not.
But it's
sure.
debuting on
Yeah,
Crackle?
it just said Crackle Originals, which means nothing to me. But
Yeah.
Yeah, what the hell
This-
is Crackle?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. But having said that, like I'm a big Nintendo guy. Like Nintendo is my favorite of the big three by a country mile. This looks awesome. I cannot wait for this. Go ahead,
I'm
man,
with
please.
you there, John. I will consume anything that tells me the history of Nintendo, because I'm with you. Nintendo's my favorite. I've always really enjoyed them. They have such a, they have kind of more of a personality as a company, which doesn't, I hate saying that because there's no such thing as a company with a personality, but I feel like a lot of us, especially in our age group, have a stronger attachment because we grew up with Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're also such an opaque company. They don't share their story. So when people can dig in and find even just a little bit of new information, fans like us seize on that. So I'll watch it. I'll have to figure out how the hell I get Crackle, but I will.
I don't even know what that is.
I think it was an app on the PS3 at one point.
I think I've heard of it, but I never watched it. I think Crackle is free though.
Well, that's good at least.
So there is that. Also, as an unfortunate addendum, that Kano actor apparently passed away, according to Justin Barta.
Oh, that's sad.
No, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. If I had a beer like you did, I'd just pour one out for him right now. But
I mean, I'm not going to pour it out, but I'll drink it for him.
Well, you can drink. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's being poured out somewhere.
It looks like Crackle is a streaming platform opened by Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment.
Man,
again, whatever the hell that is.
It's Sony owned.
Yeah, it's completely free.
Okay.
Wow.
So at least nobody has to pay anything for this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I got a weird. I got like a weird feel, like a weird rush when I watched this. When I saw Howard Phillips, because it reminded me of my childhood. Like Howard Phillips was the CEO of Nintendo when I was a teenager, and I was like, oh man, I don't know why I'm getting nostalgic about Howard Phillips, but I really, really am. And I love that Sean Astin could get a career voicing video game documentaries at this point. Like he is so ubiquitous in doing this. But yeah, too many people don't know that, Nintendo has such a long and cool history going back before they became known as somebody who made video games. Like they used to make playing cards. Like, I mean, back in the 40s.
Hanafuda.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like it's such an interesting journey that Hiroshi Yamauchi took. There you go.
Yeah, come on. What self-respecting Nintendo fan doesn't have a deck of Hanafuda cards like 8 feet away from them at all times?
I have mine boxed up somewhere from.
I've totally got some. I'm just not going to show them.
Nice.
But no, like when is this supposed to drop? I forgot what the release date was supposed to be.
March 1st.
March 1st. Okay.
Okay, so it's right around the corner.
Doodle in the chat points out that Sony used to own Crackle. They have since
sold
it,
Chicken Soup thing now owns it. Sony sold their full stake to the Chicken Soup thing. So
also Mazinger G in the chat with a clever statement. Isn't Crackle the brother of Snap and Pop? I appreciate that.
Whoa, that is.
I was going to make that joke and I opted out.
Fair enough. Eddie Beals points out that Nintendo used to operate love hotels. That is also true. It wasn't just Hanafuda. They actually operated love hotels, which is wild to think about when you consider Nintendo's image now.
And a taxi service. So technically, Nintendo had your whole sex pipeline covered for a while.
I really wish now that the Nintendo release of Final Fantasy VII would have had a little Easter egg by putting a Nintendo logo in the Honeybee Inn. Like that would have been a sweet
man.
That would have been a sweet little call out to that. Nobody would have known what it meant.
You're right.
That would have been
very few people.
Incredible. I'll be curious to see what they cover in the history of Nintendo. I feel like it'll be the history of Nintendo, the video game company, and not so much Nintendo.
I mean, they show the Hanafuda cards, but I feel like they'll go to brush over that. It's a 5-part series, so who knows how long. I'm guessing each one's a half hour long.
Yeah, the interesting
maybe
thing,
an hour.
And last I looked into this, because I've long wanted to dig into the history of pre-video game Nintendo. Last I heard, nobody actually, like, it's known that Nintendo operated love hotels. Nobody knows where they were, though. Nobody knows nobody can seem to find the address of any of these establishments that Nintendo ran.
That's because Nintendo sent lawyers to all of them. And threatened them,
exactly.
told them
That
to-
does
told
make a
them
certain
not to
amount of
talk about
sense.
it.
Yeah, I'm
The
sure they don't
Nintendo
want people.
ninjas took care of that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, they made them
Before
all sign
any
an
of us were
NDA.
born. All right.
I do really quickly want to extend a warm welcome to Antonio Martinez and Darksteel01 in the chat, both of whom are names I don't recognize. So thank you for joining us for our live audience, and we hope to see you in many more shows to come.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so let's go ahead and throw our next news story up on the board here. It's been a long time since we've talked about Xbox here on TNT, and we have a good reason to, finally. I love this story for a couple of reasons. The first major reason is that it is the first time we've gotten to feature our friends from Digital Foundry here on TNT. So this article comes by way of John Linneman, who's a personal friend of a few of us here at GVG. The story is that Xbox has announced FPS Boost. Basically, Xbox One games now run at double their original frame rate, or at least certain Xbox One games. So the list is, I know it's Watch Dogs 2, Super Lucky's Tale, and 3 or 4
Far Cry
others.
4, UFC 4, and Sniper Elite 4.
There we
go. A lot of
go.
4s.
Yeah, so I listed the 2 I care about.
UFC 4 again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of neat. Super Lucky's Tale, I think, goes all the way up to 120 frames per second, which is really cool. I will be the first to admit, though, I'm really frame rate sensitive, and I still have not seen a huge benefit from playing games at 120 FPS. It's noticeably smoother, but I don't feel a huge advantage. I think where it works really well is
after
in
somewhere
quick
between
shooters.
60 to 90 frames a second, there you start to get diminishing returns.
Yeah. I will say, however, though, I've played some Gears 5 at 120 FPS, which is limited to multiplayer, which seems really fucked up because, if you have a $3,000 setup, you definitely have a huge competitive advantage. Like, I'm no good at Gears, but when I play on my 120 FPS TV on my Series X, I am killing people. It is ridiculous how I can get the jump on people, and I'm not good at this game. So I do recognize that there are some uses for it, but Ori, Super Lucky's Tale, I'm way more excited about games that are going from 30 to 60 because to me that is a huge difference. It's a massive leap in performance, and from what Digital Foundry says, it works perfectly, exactly as advertised.
Nice.
So I'm really happy to hear this. This is the kind of stuff I like to see. I know Microsoft is leaning kind of more into the don't fix what ain't broke kind of scenario with the Xbox Series X. It feels like a last-gen console. They're leaning into the strengths of it as being that it runs your old games better, and I kind of like that. I think it's a good approach.
Me too.
I like the way it contrasts Sony's approach. As somebody who has both, I find unique advantages to each. I'm still firmly in the camp that the PS5 is the more exciting piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I'd love it if Sony did shit like this.
Yeah.
Please.
I mean, it'd be great if Sony had backwards compatibility beyond the 4. I'd love to be able to play PS3 and PS2 and PS1 games on
That
system.
is
That's the dream.
I picked up my Vita the other day to play Vagrant Story, and I was like, why can't I do this on my PS5? Like, why? Like, why not? What's the point? Are you telling me the PS4 or the PS5 can't run Vagrant Story? Come on.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy because you could say the same thing about Nintendo, too. Like, there's such a demand for these games. And it's just, they're just not giving it to you.
It's a smaller subset in the grand scheme of things, but in the sake of preservation or making it available, I think there's ways to make these old games exciting, but Microsoft's kind of going about the right way to do that. It's like, all right, we're going to take these old games, but we're also going to make them run better.
I mean,
and to be fair, I know some people out there think porting is as easy as just pressing a big red port game button.
Right.
It isn't. Porting I'm no engineer, but I know that porting takes a lot of work, and it's not just that easy. But I do wish Sony was putting more effort into just at least expanding. Not even expanding. There is no backward compatibility catalog for PS1, 2, and 3 yet. And I just wish they would do something with that, because having PS4 games playable, awesome, great, they should be. But there's so many games from the PS3, 2, and 1 that I wish I could play on my PS5. And I don't like having to keep a PS3 hooked up just to be able to do that. So
I will say that we're probably at the beginning of a new approach to backwards compatibility, because the PS4 and the Xbox One were the first consoles that really kind of used off-the-shelf for lack of a better term, PC style parts. So they used CPUs that are out there and exist, GPUs that are out there and exist in the wild. And what that means is they have a common architecture with PCs, which, as you all know, if you have a gaming PC, you can still run shit from the 90s, all the way back, because it has been designed in that way. And I think that Microsoft and Sony wisely in the last generation shifted toward that style of architecture, with the thought being, okay, as we iterate on consoles and make new generations of consoles, this backwards compatibility thing won't come back to bite us anymore. But the issue is, PS4 games run perfectly on PS5. Xbox One games run perfectly on Xbox Series. But when you go back to those older consoles now, the 360 was based on the same processor found in high-end Macs at the time. The Xbox One, I don't even know what the hell's in that, or the original Xbox, not Xbox One, but first gen Xbox. I don't even know what the hell was in that thing, but they were all these weird custom architectures, and so they varied wildly. And getting, like you said, Ash, porting is real hard work, and when you constantly change your actual underlying hardware architecture, every time you want to get a game working backwards compatibility, you essentially either have to write an emulator, which is a lot of work, and requires significantly more overhead than native processing, or you have to port the damn game. So I think that they've kind of boxed themselves into a corner where they need to provide some type of emulation-based solution for anything older than the last gen. And I'll be honest, with the responses I see from executives about how people feel about backwards compatibility, I just don't see them putting in the effort to bring us that, which is unfortunate.
Not.
I mean, and every platform holder is guilty of it. I mean,
you've got Jim Ryan just a couple of years ago who said nobody wants to play these older games.
Exactly.
Which was just such an unfortunate statement, because eventually these older games are going to become lost to the ether as older systems fail, and these companies. I mean, I get that everybody wants to all these companies want to promote the newest best shiny thing, and that's great, but it is important. Like, I would love my son who's 12 to play some of the games that I grew up on, and you just can't find some of them anymore. They're just not there anymore, and that's a part of my childhood, and that's really sad.
Yeah, it's seeing like movies, because like Back to the Future came out in 1985, but you still want to see, people still want to watch Back to the Future, and it's readily available.
Yep.
We are seeing what I've noticed is a kind of a specific developer-based approach to reviving old games for current platforms. Like, we've got a lot of, we got the Capcom Arcade Collection. There's the Sega Genesis Collection. There's, Square Enix just announced that they're remastering Legend of Mana. We've got all 3 Final Fantasy Legend games on the, so we're seeing certain companies, bring back older games in bespoke collections. I would love to see Square do a Parasite Eve collection that does not have the 3rd birthday.
I'm like, stop putting out Saga games, and please start porting Final Fantasy 1 through 6 and Parasite Eve and Xenogears and please.
Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger.
Exactly.
All due respect to Saga, it's just not a great franchise. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off. I could talk.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool to have like an Evil East collection, like Final Fantasy Tactics, Vagrant Story, and whatever else.
I was streaming the Triangle Strategy demo last night, and I had a great time, because the whole time I was like, this is giving me such strong Final Fantasy Tactics vibes, which then, of course, led me to think, why haven't we gotten a re-release of that game since War of the Lions on PSP?
It's on mobile and Android.
So many good games on the PSP, that like good RPGs that need to be ported
it's on Android and
War of the Lions is on. It blows my mind that games like War of the Lions and Valkyrie Profile are available on Android and iOS, but not on the Switch or the PS5 or the Xbox.
I don't want to play them on the damn phone.
No,
I don't either.
They just last week, Konami dropped Castlevania Symphony of the Night on mobile, and I'm like,
why?
There is a perfectly good Nintendo system right here. Like, I get that it's on. Don't get me started.
And that's the thing,
man.
is that in fact, Derek, you were mentioning this a little while ago. We have the Castlevania Anniversary Collection on Switch, which is great, but we need a Castlevania Anniversary Collection 2 that has all the Igavanias, starting with Symphony of the Night, and all the DS games, and that would be hype as hell.
I mean, even if they...
Where's Aria of Sorrow or Circle of the Moon?
Symphony, having the 3 GBA games and the 3 DS games would be amazing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To be fair, having GBA games on the Switch, period, would be amazing. But
yes, it would. Imposter in the chat brings up a good point. We're all looking at this as people who did grow up with PlayStation consoles and started with the PS1 and such. But Imposter brings up a great point. As someone whose first PlayStation is the PS5, being able to play their previous libraries would be cool. I mean, this is a whole ass market that Sony could tap into.
You're somebody that's playing through Astro's Playroom and like, I don't know what this is referencing. I have a vague idea.
Astro's Playroom is a love letter to all generations of PlayStation. Of course, people are going to want to go be able to check out some of those games.
I mean, my son is 12, and he has been weaned on, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games. But he has also finished Chrono Trigger,
nice.
Pokemon
Your son
Red.
Has great taste.
Nice.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna, Super Metroid, and because he is super interested, because gaming is a huge part of my life, and he is super interested about what I played when he was a kid, just like you said.
I love that.
It's almost like
mine's going to be like that,
right? And it's for him, it's almost like he's reliving my childhood.
That's so cool.
And that is something like I sat down with him and explained to him why Final Fantasy VI was so important to me. It saved my life when I was 15. These games, it's not just, I've said before and I'll say it again. It's not even so much the thing that you love, it's what was happening in your life when you found it.
Yep.
And that, you can love a thing, but that moment in time when you realize I really needed that thing, that's what gives it the flavor that's important. And I explained to him why this game was so important to me, and he ended up playing it because he was like, this is important to my dad, and I want to see if I can try to capture some of that magic for myself. And so I wish
this is the
more
most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just
you're
so
good.
Wholesome, and I love it. It's just so wholesome.
No, you're good. Yeah. My kid's my best friend.
I love that.
But yeah, like I want to be able to pass that on to him. And I just wish more companies would take this serious. Not even so much for me, but I want to play Final Fantasy Tactics on my Switch. I mean, I do, but I also want my son and others to be able to experience these games that we all did when we were their age and figure out kind of like, it's almost like a history lesson.
Yeah.
It
really is.
The gaming industry is horrible about preservation.
It really
there are so
is.
many games that are just lost.
Yeah.
Even now. And there are folks out there like Frank Cifaldi who are doing great work to try to preserve the history of gaming. But one of the things is that a lot of the physical media that games came on when we were younger is deteriorating now. It's cartridges are I mean, original Game Boys are literally rotting at this point, even ones that have been well cared for.
PSP batteries are exploding.
Yeah, they weren't designed to last for as long as people didn't think when games were first becoming popular in the 80s that 30 years from now some grown man is going to want to play this game I coded. So they didn't preserve much, and it's a real uphill struggle now. It would be great if one of these major platform holders could just create a Steam-like platform for that they would just use in perpetuity for their consoles, because it feels like every time we get a new generation of gaming, we also get a whole new eShop that comes with it, and all the
and then we have to rebuy everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, a re-release of Final Fantasy VI this year, even if it was just on Nintendo Online, would excite me more than anything else coming out this year. And they know there is a massive demand in the market for older games to be available. And if some of these other companies would just find a way to make it happen, I mean, there is real money to be made there, and I don't understand why they're not jumping all over this.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if they ported Chrono Trigger to Switch tomorrow, can you imagine the hype that would generate?
Oh, I would explode.
Yep.
I would explode.
I mean,
two of our panel, half of us, our favorite game of all time is Chrono Trigger. Maybe
that's
three out of four of us.
That's my second favorite game of all time.
Nice.
It's Chrono Trigger.
It's up there. It is absolutely up there.
I would, no joke, pay $60 for a port of Chrono Trigger. If I could get
I would pay. I mean, if they said, like you said, if they announced a Parasite Eve collection, like we remastered Parasite Eve 1 and 2, and we left the third birthday out. Like if we did that, here it is for $40. It would people would buy it. Here is Final Fantasy 1 through 6, the Legacy collection. Here's the Final Fantasy Classic collection 1 through 6, $60. Yeah,
right.
I'm
Even
there.
If they just sell them in pairs again, like $30 for every two. Like here's 1 and 2, here's 3 and 4, here's 5 and 6. There you go.
Now here's a question though: would you rather have that, or would you rather have an HD 2D remake of FF6? It done in the style of Octopath Traveler.
That is something I have been praying to numerous dark gods for
same
many years. And I know it's not going to happen. And that to me, I'm just like, guys, it's on the SNES Classic. Why isn't it on Nintendo Online? I mean, come on, guys, please.
Wolf X Blake points out in the chat, demand is there because the GameCube apparently has been spiking upward like crazy.
I've got a GameCube right behind me.
Yeah.
No, I played Eternal Darkness last week. There is a market
ready to be hooked
for
up. I have all my consoles. They're not all hooked up because I don't have the room, but they're ready to be swapped out when need be.
Yeah. I mean, nice. I've got my modded Vita, my modded GBA. I've got my GameCube back there. There is a huge market for these games, and there's real money to be made. And I don't understand. Square Enix was going. I'm sure you guys heard they were going to at one point institute some kind of online subscription service where they would have a catalog of their older games. And they recently decided that they weren't going to do that. And I'm like,
why?
I would subscribe to that.
Put that service on there. You put some. Square Enix has one of the strongest back catalogs ever.
Listen,
I remember in the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 area specifically, Square Enix put out a game. I was almost always going to buy it.
If EA Access can exist, then Square should be a no-brainer. But I have to keep the show moving along.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
Just like the games industry, out with the old and in with the new. I'm going to throw our next story up on the screen, and it's kind of relevant. So these are comments from Nintendo CEO Shuntaro Furukawa, basically discussing a potential successor to the Switch. The quote goes, "Any successor to the Nintendo Switch must be able to offer consumers new forms of entertainment." Furukawa said Nintendo doesn't have a specific time frame in mind for hardware development. Rather, it is constantly researching technology. The hardware and software development teams are in the same building, communicating closely and thinking about how we can propose new forms of entertainment. The shorthand for that being Nintendo gonna Nintendo. This is the same thing they always do. People want to hear about whatever the successor to the Switch is. I'm going to tell you right now, you got at least 5 more years to wait. There's
it's going to be a while.
Agreed. Yeah.
Nintendo is not they take risks, but when they have a successful formula, they ride that shit until
look at the original Game Boy. I think that launched in 1989, and if Pokemon didn't come out until 97,
something like that. Yeah.
And I honestly don't see a post-Switch Nintendo. I mean, I feel like the Switch is here to. I mean, I know they're going to have obviously new hardware, but I feel like the whole portable console thing has to be a part
locked
of
into
whatever
that.
they do going forward.
They are locked into the hybrid console.
It just
they
did
developed
so
themselves into a corner.
Well,
there. Yeah. But I also just this is the same reason Miyamoto says we haven't gotten a new F-Zero game. It has to have something new, some hook. No, it doesn't.
Quiet, Miyamoto. Just give us a new F-Zero game.
The only hook I need is 1080p, 60 FPS F-Zero.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the fact
hook
that it's something new to play. We have this. We talk about the classic stuff, but we also want to see that classic stuff get support.
Right.
Do something with it. And the fact that they always think they have to innovate is so frustrating because, I mean, look how it makes playing those games in the future harder.
Yeah.
DS ports are going to be a pain in the ass. We're already seeing how they had to kind of rework the gameplay of Skyward Sword for HD using the right analog stick just to have it be able to be played on the Switch Mini.
They're going to have to do the same thing for Metroid Prime Corruption. whenever that. Well, I mean that's been done for a while, but we don't have to get into that. But yeah, like it's Nintendo is 100% locked into the hybrid console thing. Like there's no going back for them, and it's the same reason why I'm 100% confident we will not see any kind of a Switch Pro this year. Like that'll be a next year thing,
right?
Because they've got a Super Mario bundle or themed Switch that I bought because I'm an idiot. And I spend way too much money on Nintendo stuff. There's a Monster Hunter Switch coming out that I will also buy because I'm an idiot. I mean, the way this thing is selling, they don't need an upgraded model. They just don't. And next year, I think you're going to see that Switch Pro announced in January and released in March, just like the original Switch was. But like aside from that, I agree with you. Like I don't know where they go from here. I don't see an end. Like I don't see anything past the Nintendo Switch. I think they start treating it like mobile phones. There's just a more powerful iteration of this thing every few years, and I personally am okay with that. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree with you. I think that Nintendo can't really back away from this form factor that they've created, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
It fits the Japanese market so well.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits the American market too. I think they
Well,
stumbled upon a device that, as John kind of implied, has almost a new phone-like allure to it. It's just this, they can iterate on this thing every couple years and people are going to want to buy it because it's the thing they love, just better, faster, shinier. And I've been saying since the Wii U days that whatever Nintendo introduced would have to be kind of a stopgap and that they would just iterate on whatever that thing was. Because, they killed the Wii U. Now the Switch has been out just about as long as the Wii U, right? We're coming up on
on
Wii U longevity numbers for the Switch now. And Nintendo has to know that, it was underpowered when it came out. Intentionally so, but still underpowered nonetheless. But selling developers on this concept gets harder when they now have to target more powerful consoles to make their games on. Getting a PS5 port to the Switch is going to be hard. But if you start, hey, you can port it to this more powerful spec we have and then, maybe downgrade a little more from there, people will probably be more likely to bite if they think it's not as much work. But
I guess that's really my only question, Steve, is, when you talk about like an incremental hardware upgrade, like a Switch Pro, where you could conceivably, and we don't know what the guts of those things are, but where you could conceivably port lower resolution versions of PS5 and Xbox Series X games. At what point do you say, okay, here are games that will only play on the Switch Pro? And I think that's the only way Nintendo could possibly. I think that's the only way that Nintendo could find themselves in a bind is eventually if emerging tech, the games being made in a few years just will not play on a Switch, but they will play on a Switch Pro. Like that is a divide in your audience that could be problematic.
See,
they already tried it to a lesser extent with the new Nintendo 3DS
right.
and games like Xenoblade Chronicles 3D
right.
that would only run on the newer hardware, and it didn't work out for them very well.
I
think Xenoblade was one of 4 whole games or something that were new Nintendo 3DS exclusive.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
something like that.
Yeah,
I would honestly say without hesitation that 2023 is when you do that. So I'm with you, John, in that I think that the Switch Pro or whatever Nintendo's going to call it doesn't come out until 2022. I think that's a really great time because then you can say the Switch is 5 years old. So yeah, we're replacing it with a more powerful unit. Don't worry, all your stuff is still going to work. And then, a year or so on, they start, okay, we're really going to open up this new hardware and here's a really compelling game that only works on this new model of Switch. Your
Breath of the Wild
launch
2
model Switch is now 6 years old. I think at that point, and Nintendo's also going to benefit from the fact that, the tech giants have trained us that these things only last so long.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, as consumers, view portable devices as things that we don't keep for long amounts of time. And 6 years is a really long time to have a handheld console.
That's I had a very similar conversation with somebody recently, and I had brought up an iterative model of the Switch every few years, every 4 or 5 years, and somebody said, well, nobody's gonna keep buying new consoles, and I was like, people buy new phones for $800 annually. Like, I mean, you think people won't spend $300 for a new console every 4 years? Like, you're kidding yourself. They will.
Yeah, I mean, the gaming industry has also kind of trained us, in a sense, on all fronts to expect iterations to our consoles. I'm looking at this PS5 thinking, okay, 2 years from now they'll slim this thing down. The
PS5 Pro
and make it easier to store. I even said in my review it has a very 1.0 design feel to it in terms of Sony has to know this thing's way too fucking big.
That thing is. I was just looking at it in the background of your. I was like, God, that thing's enormous.
Yeah, it's really damn big, and I love it, but it's huge, and but start as far back as the PS3 and the Xbox 360, they started introducing iterative console designs. Like, okay, we're gonna
even back in the PS1, they had the tiny PS1
with the tiny little
Sony's been doing LCD their entire career.
Same with the PS2. They had the tiny little thin, the tiny little thin PS2.
The PS2 Slim,
yeah, that's what it was. Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
the PS3 Fat, the PS3 Slim, yeah.
We've been getting trained on this for decades now. There's going to be iterations,
and of course Nintendo with all their handhelds.
Yeah, I was going to say Nintendo themselves are the originals, releasing Game Boy in 9 colors, and then Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Light, Game Boy Advance,
Nintendo
Game
was
Boy
doing
Advance
this way
SP,
before
DS,
Sony
DS
was.
Lite.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you get the idea. So
I just want to point out a quick exchange in the chat here. Michael McCaw says the power switch, to which Richard Herrera replied, "It's so bad." And then Richard said, "No one got the Wizard reference. I feel old." I just want to say, I got it. You're in the company, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get it. I cringed at that scene back in the day. So.
Oh man, that movie. I recently showed that movie to my wife for the first time, and she was like, "It is absolutely a product of its time."
Did she think
like,
that
I can totally see?
Did she also love the Power Glove?
She thought that whole scene was ridiculous.
It was
but
so bad.
Why it's so mimetic and why it has taken on such a mimetic quality. Jared Edinger says, and I was thinking the same thing. I love it, but it's huge. It's a great out of context. GBG out of context later. Also, welcome to Aerobatic Shadow, another name I don't recognize in the chat. Welcome.
Yeah, that one I don't recognize.
And Derek Galatovich. I don't recognize your name either. So welcome to both of you.
Cool.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right,
we'll see what Nintendo tries to do, but it's not good. It'd be insane if they stray too far from what the Switch does now.
Yeah. Don't mess with a good thing. Really.
Yeah, because Nintendo has always done best and stood out most when they march to the beat of their own drum, right? And don't try to do what Sony and Microsoft are doing. And straight up, Sony and Microsoft have the high-powered hardware corner taken care of. We don't need a third really high-powered console. I like that Nintendo does their own thing, and is kind of taking their own approach to gaming. And let Sony and Microsoft chase hardware numbers. Nintendo should keep doing their own thing, in my opinion.
And I think, honestly, the past year of Nintendo Switch just absolutely crushing it in terms of sales will hopefully solidify to Nintendo that we need to keep on doing our own thing, and we don't need to rush and try to compete with visual fidelity or parity with PS5 and the Xbox. People are clearly happy with games like Animal Crossing, and that's what we need to keep doing. Games that look like that make people happy, that they can take anywhere.
And in the meantime, the only innovation I need in a Switch Pro is the one that'll let me play Age of Calamity at anything higher than 20 frames per second. Because I really love that game. Yeah. I just want to play it at at a stable frame rate, because that would be its own unique, completely new experience, to be honest.
I played that game completely handheld, and it was an experience.
Yeah.
Did you cut your retinas on it?
I did actually. I've got glaucoma now in both eyes, so that's fun.
Man.
Thank you, Age of Calamity.
Thank you, Nintendo. All right, let's go ahead and bring up our next story. This one, I wish Brandon was here, but we'll make it through.
I wish he was too. Yeah.
So for all of the Brandon miracles in the chat tonight, Capcom is hosting a series of Monster Hunter related events. On March 8th, we have a Monster Hunter digital event, which looks like it will cover both Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2, which I'm personally hyped for. Monster Hunter Stories 2 is the one I kind of think I'll vibe with more.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, following it up on the 9th, they have a Monster Hunter Rise gameplay session, and they'll be doing tutorials and a Q&A. And then on the 11th, with no time decided yet, they will be doing a community live stream. Both of the two previous ones pop off at 6 a.m., which...
that's going to be a fun morning.
Woof. We'll definitely do the digital event. I don't know that I'm going to make it the next morning for the gameplay.
Same.
Oh, never mind. That's 9 a.m. my time. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm East Coast, so 9 a.m. is a little bit more doable, but that's still really freaking early.
That is pretty early.
I got to say, I'm not the biggest Monster Hunter fan. Like, I've tried.
Yeah.
It's just, I've always bounced off of it. It's just not my thing.
It's not my thing as much. I was actually agreeing with you, Steve, about what you said about stories too. That's the whole kind of single player story driven experience seems like something I'd vibe with more as well. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to seeing more of. But I think we'll certainly react to the digital event on the 8th, but maybe we can talk to Brandon and see if he wants to react to the gameplay and director Q&A, since he's like the hardcore Monster Hunter. Like, I don't think any of us would really know what to react with to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just finally dived into my own like game that takes hundreds of hours and gets you addicted for that. I don't need a second one.
And I'll be joining you in May. I'll be joining you, man, in May. I got to get on the same server or whatever as you. Make sure we can play together.
Yeah. I might try it out too when the PS5 version comes along. Final Fantasy 14, of course. As far as
I hopefully should be more established in 14 by that point.
Yeah,
right. So
you guys are always come to Ultra server.
I went with Diabolos because I have some friends in there.
We have so many people like we want to play with and who want to play with us in FF14 when we actually.
No, I have friends in every single World Center. It's like if I want to play with all of them, I have to basically make 3 different characters.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, don't do that.
All
no,
right.
like at this Monster Hunter event, like you got to figure that they're going to drop a new demo here, right?
I feel like they
I
should.
mean,
maybe. I mean, it's so close to release. I don't know if they
with
need
the
to.
issues that were present in the demo, I think it'd be a smart idea to.
I think so
release a
too.
new one.
True.
Because
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you could not play that thing online if you had more than 20 friends, and
I think
Yep.
yeah. I mean, it happened to me, and it was unplayable. So I would just like to know that has been fixed more than anything else.
Well, I think they already said that Capcom already came out and made a statement saying this is not going to be in the final game. Here's what's causing it. It's only a demo thing. We apologize, but don't worry. This is not going to be. We have identified it. It's not going to be in the final game.
You know what they should have said is, look, this is our way of telling you you are extremely popular. If you're feeling depressed about anything, you shouldn't because you have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that it's
you're too cool for us.
a statement is one thing, but showing people speaks volumes. Just here's a demo with the performance fix. Check it out. We're not lying. Sure. and
maybe we'll get a Stories 2 demo.
So many folks are.
And
skeptical.
here's a lion for you to kill.
I would love a demo of Stories because visually I'm all in, but I'm not a huge Monster Hunter guy. So if I could try out the gameplay, that would go a long way for me. I mean, it might go a long way towards unselling me on the game, but
I played a little bit of the original Monster Hunter Stories, and it felt very RPG-ish. So I think you'd click with it a little bit more.
Yeah, Nintendo sent me a long time ago the original Monster Hunter Stories with an amiibo for it, and I just haven't had a chance to play it. It came at a time where I was moving into my apartment. I was like, well, I'll get to you someday. It's not today though. And as life has a way of doing, I just forgot about it. Speaking of the rigors of daily life, go ahead and get our next story up here on the screen. And I'm probably the only person that's excited about this, but this is an intersection of 2 of the things I love most in life, Animal Crossing and manga. VIZ has announced that Animal Crossing New Horizons Deserted Island Diary is a new manga series, features all your favorite villagers, and it's coming this fall. And you can see the art on the screen here. VIZ kind of did like a weird VIZ Direct thing where they just dropped tons of announcements of new manga on Twitter. If y'all know, one of our executive producers, Brandon Bovia, works with VIZ, lettering Dragon Ball Super and a couple other properties of theirs. I'm so excited for this. I can't wait. I mean, I love Nintendo manga in general. I was thinking though, Nintendo manga has, and I doubt Animal Crossing will be like this, but Nintendo manga has a weird reputation for being way off-brand. Like, we've seen Mario
I heard Twilight Princess is a lot more hardcore than the actual game.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
the Zelda manga I've read is pretty cool. Like, I've never gotten around to reading them all, but I liked what I've seen, and they're definitely branded differently from the games. They're like the separate takes on what happens in the games. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'll be curious how you do a Animal Crossing manga, because the game is defined by just the choices of the player. There's really nothing. There's no narrative. You owe Tom Nook money, and you gotta buy your way out of debt. So I'll be curious to see what they do here. I imagine it'll be like a slice of life kind of manga. I don't really know, but
yeah, it's gonna be just nice, fun stories about things that they do. I guess it seems like the most likely. I mean, they found a way to tell a story in Splatoon where the first, I think, 3 volumes didn't even get to the single player. It was all multiplayer focused when they just did their own thing.
I'm actually pretty intrigued by this. I've obviously said before, I'm not a big Animal Crossing diehard fan. I've kind of had my fill of the games, but I love the aesthetic of Animal Crossing, and I love just the vibe of it. And so I think a manga take with actual stories involving Animal Crossing villagers could be interesting. And I already like the art because this villager has murder on his mind, and whatever happens, this manga I feel like is going to lead to a lot of Animal Crossing meme-like stuff with, again, this wide-eyed, smiley villager wielding various bladed objects. And I just feel like there's going to be a lot of fun art in this that'll be very good for memes. I
think there's a great opportunity here for a Junji Ito Animal Crossing manga featuring the Easter Bunny that comes to your island. I think there's something there. I think, yeah. I'm a big Animal Crossing guy. I'm not a big manga guy.
Okay.
So I've actually never read a single manga. Except for a few, well, no, I take that back. A little bit of Ito, but aside from that, I have never read a single relevant manga, so I got nothing on this one.
No worries.
Yeah.
There is a second part to this story in a way. VIZ did also announce that they're publishing The Creative Gene, which is a book by Hideo Kojima, and it's a series of his essays. Jared Edinger in the chat actually called that out as well. Says he's super excited for it. I don't know if I want to read this or not, but if I do, I won't be sober, because I feel like anything Kojima says doesn't make sense unless you're inebriated, at least.
Well, you gotta. I mean, Steve, you have to say what the actual Japanese title originally was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which
what is it?
The Gifted Gene and My Lovable Memes, which okay, I don't know how I feel about that, but hey. So when I saw it, because I just pulled up there's a Polygon article about it, and I pulled it up, and apparently the actual Japanese title of the book, originally published in 2019, is The Gifted Gene and My Lovable Memes. And
what?
It's so.
They really should just rename it The Circle Jerk.
Yeah.
That's really what this is.
I mean, I like Kojima. He has shown himself to be kind of weirdly prophetic about a lot of things, but
what they need to do,
the dude just needs to sit down and make a movie.
They just need to
get it out of his system.
They need to publish half the book and then release the rest on a bunch of cassette tapes that you have to pop into a tape player and play. I feel like that would be the most meta way possible to handle this.
Yeah.
That would be the most Kojima move ever.
I have a lot of respect for Kojima's work and the games he's made. I mean, he's, like you said, he's been weirdly prophetic, Derek, about a lot of things. I think that the man is talented, but my God, I have never seen a creator in more dire need of an editor. He just so badly needs an editor, and it's not as though all of his ideas are bad. I mean, he's successful for a reason, but God, he needs an editor so badly.
The first time I ever played Metal Gear Solid 4 was in Afghanistan, and I got there was literally a 2-hour cutscene. And I hit a 2-hour cutscene, and I was late for an intel briefing, and I walked in 20 minutes late, and I literally looked the battalion commander straight in the face, and I said, "I'm sorry, sir, but Metal Gear Solid ran a little long." And, and he had no idea what I meent, but he was like, "Okay, just don't be late again." But I'm thinking I'm thinking to myself, like, I literally I played 3 hours of a game and then watched a 2-hour movie in the game. I could not believe it.
And that's not the only one.
I could not believe it.
I remember. I'll never forget it. I had gotten to what I could tell was like the final sequence, the finale of Metal Gear Solid 4, and it was like 12:30 a.m. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it and go to bed. Hour or two. 5 a.m. I'm finally starting to that ending is like 3 or 2.5 hours or something with everything. So like 4 to 5 a.m. I'm finally wrapping up to go to bed, and I'm like I regret everything. I should have waited.
I was exactly in the same boat, Ash. I don't know how we managed that, but I beat Metal Gear Solid around the same time of the night, and I was like, oh, it won't be that long. And then I'm sitting there just looking at the TV like, please fucking end already. I'm so mad at myself and at my PS3.
It's like the end of Return to the King times 10. Like you just
That is one thing I should point out about Triangle Strategy. It was a tough streaming game because I was closing in on the 2-hour mark for my stream, and I'd only played one battle because there are so many cutscenes.
There are.
And they're quite long. And so I ended up going for 3.5 hours, and in that whole span, I played 2 battles. Only 2.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I really enjoy it, and it's definitely, it's got those FF Tactics vibes, but you have to be in the mood for something that is very story and cutscene heavy.
This game. This is gonna be a 100-hour game. I guarantee it.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy considering it's so meant to be so replayable, so you can see the other actions.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to play 400 hours of this damn game. I don't care.
Oh, my God.
How do
you... you give me hope because I'm like, where do you find the time to do any of this stuff? And, like, with a newborn, and yet you have a 12-year-old and able to play all these hours of games. Like, cool.
To be fair, he lives with his mom. So, okay. But, however, I constantly get calls like, Dad, can I use your PlayStation 5 account?
That's awesome.
For what? Yeah,
nice.
So.
Nice.
All right. So... one last story. Speaking of a game that one could easily spend 400 hours in. Throw this on screen. I am so goddamn hyped. Diablo II remake is a real thing, and it's coming out this year. I've got the trailer playing on the screen right now. I
have not seen
spent
this.
so much time with this, and
nice.
It's coming to PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch.
Damn.
And it looks great. Great.
This game is going to sell a bajillion copies.
This is what Vicarious Visions was brought on for, so...
I guarantee you, right? Good. People are more excited about this than they are Diablo 4.
Oh, I bet so.
Oh.
I bet so.
100%.
I mean, even someone like me, I'm not really into a lot of PC games and, like games like Diablo. Even I got into Diablo 2 back in the day.
Yeah, me too.
And so that's saying something. I basically played it for a whole summer because I was trying to just stave off the wait for Chrono Cross because I could not wait for Chrono Cross and I needed something to pass the time. So I got into Diablo 2 with a few friends at the time. And I loved it. This game sucked me in so much, and I don't usually enjoy games like this.
Me neither.
So I'm excited. I'll probably play this with you, Steve.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say this is. I'm again.
I joined.
Great minds think alike. I was in a very similar boat. My dad bought this for himself on his gaming PC, which I'm sure was just mind blowing back then. But
oh yeah,
and I would constantly steal his computer and stay up late playing this game, just so I could, And again, it's not my kind of game. It's if I had never had my experience with Diablo 2, I would have said, nah, this isn't for me. But something about the Diablo 2 specifically just drew me in, and I spent such a good chunk of my adolescence playing the hell out of this. Yeah, I remember very specifically my dad was being griefed by someone, like hunted repeatedly by a player, and I made it my personal mission to kill this player, and I spent weeks just tracking this dude, trying to level up so I could kill him, and I finally did, and I brought my dad his ear. It's like a gift.
That's amazing. That's
I was like,
amazing.
here you go. I got the guy's ear,
it.
and my dad got so mad at me for avenging him because he was embarrassed. But
oh really? He got mad at you? Oh, I thought it'd be pretty cool.
Oh no, my dad was like, I could have handled it myself.
I would have loved that.
Oh, that's funny.
No, that'd be cool. I'd be down. It's like, all right, son wants to avenge me. That's awesome.
Thank you, son.
Yeah, it's still one of my fondest memories. My dad and I definitely bonded over this game because it came out, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years after because when I say dad, I mean my stepdad. You know, my father, he's a whole other piece of shit. But my dad and I were, you know, still getting to know each other to a degree, and so this was kind of the game we bonded over, and it'll always hold a special place in my heart, and I cannot wait for Diablo 2 to come out, because I'm definitely buying a copy and sending it to my dad too, so that we can play it together and hopefully not have to hunt someone for their ear. But that's
I mean, as far as my own experience, I always had my friends were all PC gamers, so I was pretty much the lone console gamer in my group. But they talked about this all the time, and I played a little bit of it. I definitely enjoyed what I played, but I never got too far into it. But by the time Diablo 3 came out, I was like, all right, I'm going to pick this up and play with you guys. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also Diablo 3 when it first came out, so the auction house and all those issues. So they had that. So I enjoyed Diablo 3, and you know what? I'm down to return to Diablo 2. Get the three of us to do a run together or something like that. That'd be awesome.
Hell yeah. I am so down for this. But I'm definitely going to be hitting up my friends at Blizzard and be like, give it to me. Please give it to me.
Nice.
I don't care about much else that they're doing these days, but Diablo 2, sign me up.
And it says on the trailer that there's cross-platform progression, which is really cool. So if you own it on multiple platforms, that's really neat.
I love seeing that.
The only bummer about that is that it implies that there is no cross-play. Because if you're very specifically calling out progression, wouldn't that mean that, say my friend wants to play on PS5 and I've been playing on Switch, I can take my character over there and play with them, but I'd also have to own the game on both platforms to do that. I mean, it's not outright called out, but the implication, why wouldn't you just say cross-play? If I could hop on my Switch and play with you if you're on PC. I hope that's not the case, but I will have to reach out and find out if there's if that distinction exists, or because you know it seems like a no-brainer to let people play cross-platform, but we'll see.
Yeah,
it does.
All right. Well, with that, folks, we have reached the end of today's news. I'm excited because I have something that I've been working on that I can show at the end of this. But before I do any of that shit, John, my friend, where can we find you?
So you can find me a few places. I actually just had a series of interviews come out with the gaming website, the gaming website, and next week with the Washington Post, talking about my experiences in Fallujah and my feelings on 6 Days in Fallujah.
Nice. Interesting. Okay, cool.
And so you'll be able to find those next week. I've written a few articles for IGN and Polygon. You can find those out there in the ether. People get mad at them. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Megative with an M. I would rather you actually follow our podcast, Official SDGC, on Twitter. And I would also really love it if you followed our Twitch channel. It's Official SDGC on Twitch. We go live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Steve's been on there. It's a good time.
It is a great time.
It's a really good time. We get really kind of drunk and loud, and voices tend to get raised, but it's all good. It's all friendly. And you can find us doing various fundraisers. We just did a big fundraiser for the Trevor Project to support them as they combat suicide rates among LGBTQ youth. And
Nice.
yeah, and we have a Discord that we've got a few hundred people on a Discord. You can find that on our Twitter page. But please check us out. Give us a follow. We're trying to grow our audience, and everything helps.
Yeah, and
awesome.
I want to point out that if you love the guests that we have on TNT, Rebecca Valentine, who was here quite some time ago now, used to be a staff member on SDGC. Imran's been on the show. So if you like the type of folks we have on there, you'll also find them over at SDGC.
Yeah, I guest hosted Kind of Funny with Greg Miller once. We've had it's everybody's in the same circle here, so. You can. We had almost the entire voice cast of Final Fantasy VII Remake on.
That's awesome.
So
amazing.
Yeah,
nice.
we're things are happening. We're getting bigger. When after 5 years, we're finally starting to see some growth. So yeah, we're really excited about it. And I have a great team. My podcast team is my family, really. Without them, I don't know if I would have made it through the pandemic. So yeah,
that is awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool.
Before we sign off, I just want to say really quick, super quick, I don't know if we have any Far Cry fans in our audience, but there's apparently a Far Cry 6 email beta scam going around where you get an email saying join the Far Cry 6 beta, but it's a scam and you put your information at risk if you click on it. So there is no Far Cry 6 beta. Don't click on it. Don't fall for it.
Yep. Always PSA check your email headers, folks. If it didn't come from Ubisoft, it's probably not a Far Cry beta.
Exactly.
So before we actually sign all the way off and go into the post show and all that fun stuff and end the week together, we have to give a special thank you to all of our patrons at the producer tier for helping to make this show happen. And in addition, we have to give an extra special thank you to our executive producer patrons. Those fine folks are Jonathan Belmare, Brandon Bovia, Rob Arman X, Dan and Twistle, Z Patty, Hyrule Hermit, Sky Blue Flames, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Michael Phone, Floating Mew, Aiko Carroll, Christopher, The D-Pad, Guillaume Monet, Vesmio, Waffle King, Nick Waterman, Kitty Kong Facts, Angel Martinez, our new EP, welcome aboard, Vedron Hotik, Macalau, John, Joshua Hunter, Evernight Studio, Benny Yao, Shadow the Cat, Azran127, Kenrule09, Jake Pelka, Geller, Shiny Turkey, Joseph Rutkin, Titus Malvolio, Charlie Bird, Mitchell Herring, Lucky Wonderfish, Top Dog 23100, Brooke, Young Ben Kenobi, Charles Zaz, Douglas Comics, Andrew Medeiros, Orem M, Brady Power, Phantom 23, Scott Barber, Patrick Harrison, Rocks the Cat, Loyal Dingo, Flaming Highwayman, Sean Garrett, The Legend of Groose, Eddie B, Kyed, Kit Fisto, West Egg, Masterlinks, Sean Davis, Deaneth, Jackson Jordan, Michael McCaw, Matthew Long, Ashish Joshi, Goran Amber, Straight Lace, Seth Walker, Hoobie, Marcos Conchas, Wolf X Blake and Moon Macarons, Kane, Captain Finlandia, 60 Minutes and 60 Seconds, The Game Orb, Dano the Artist, Synchro Lord, Brainchild, my mom, hi mom, Darkumi87, The Flying Tacos, Scuff196, Naughty Senpai, and our newest executive producer, Andrew. Welcome to the EP squad. We appreciate you so much. And remember that you too can become a patron over at patreon.com/gvgaming, where for as little as $5 a month, you can watch me completely botch the credits. I'll do it live. Or, you can join at any of our other tiers. If you're not able to join our Patreon, a like and a subscribe would help out the channel so much. But either way, we appreciate you so much for being here. That wraps up this episode. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Good night and good vibes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Have a great weekend.